I want to talk about two streamers, two very different streamers. One by the name of Destiny, Stephen Bonnell, and the other one known as Hasan Piker, who have gotten caught up in the fallout of Charlie Kirk's assassination. So Stephen Bonnell has reacted to it by being as edgy as physically possible, purposely provocative, I think, both to get attention and to make a point about the need for the president to dial down the tone, as he thinks that, you know, liberals have already done enough over the last 10 years. And that has led to some provocative statements that have angered the right to the point where people are calling for his, not only his removal from like you know, content creating platforms. He's already banned from Twitch, so good luck with that. But also like arresting him altogether. And this is also extended into Hasan Piker. So both of these people are getting the accusation of, hey, look, these are dangerous people. We need to arrest them. We need to do something right away. Well, let's start here. What is the thing that Destiny is saying that's so terrifying? Breaking. Stephen Bonnell, also known as Destiny, calls for conservatives to be taken out more often so they would be afraid to attend events or speak out. This is how Right Angle News Network framed it. Let's listen.
Statistics? Not exactly like...
You need conservatives to be afraid of getting killed when they go to events so that they look to their leadership to turn down the temperature. The issue is right now, they don't feel like there's any fear. Like, I don't know. It's like memes. It's just memes to everybody, I guess. I don't know, bro. I don't know. I don't care. I'm playing video games. Okay, I'm done today. I don't give a fuck. God, it's gonna be so fucking gay if I get killed in the next fucking 2 months of shit I'm doing. Well, the cuck shit out here. Please don't anybody make any actual fucking, the most cucked, weak ass fucking bullshit ass speeches on my side. God, if it happens, holy shit, I'm gonna make a death note before I go out to go live and not. God, it's so cucked. It's so optics cucked.
Out the crime statistics.
So, is that provocative? Yes. Is that inflammatory? Yes. That's Destiny. That's who he's always been, and that's who he always will be, and there's no changing him. There's no reforming him. If you're trying to, good luck, okay? You can't fix her. You can't fix her. So, is this a direct call for violence, though? I mean, I see how somebody tries to interpret it that way, but the way that I read it, if I was trying to be as good faith as possible, right? And we're trying to extend that charity to both Destiny and Hasan here because we're talking about imprisonment. And the reason I'm talking about imprisonment isn't just because, oh, they posted it like this, he's calling for these deaths. It's also that people are directly calling for it. I don't want Stephen Bonnell to be deplatformed. I want him imprisoned. Destiny has encouraged violence against conservatives for years. He is a wretched, resentful creature and needs to sit in a cell for a very long time for helping build the leftist permission structure that got Charlie Kirk killed. Honestly, there is a 50-50 chance that if Destiny was sitting next to Charlie Kirk, the shooter would have taken a second shot. Knowing how Destiny is viewed in leftist circles, if what the Utah governor says isn't just, you know, framing in advance of the information coming out. Like, for example, transgender ideology on the bullets, and it was, oh, whoa. You know, it's, you know, they a little out of touch. Good job, Kash Patel. Good job with that. But no, it's just like Destiny is as hated as a lot of these people. Like, how do we know he created the permission structure? What does that even mean, the permission structure? Who? What? You think Destiny is viewed well in these circles? By just talking to Destiny, even though the last time I had a conversation with him
is occurred.
The last time I had an extended talk with Destiny, I think was it anything else? I don't even think it was anything else. It was us debating like the occupation of the Golan Heights, right? But by me even talking to him, a lot of those people by osmosis don't like me. Because if I'm near him, I'm, you know, it's an orbiter, you're this, you're that, you're this.
Burns
so the idea,
is immoral,
morally corrupt, bankrupt man. Thank you for the primer. The idea that he created some permission structure to this, this. Look, if you want to say that violent rhetoric can have violent outcomes, or improper demonization could lead to bad people or people who are unwell taking it upon themselves to deal with the problem. You know, these are thing, you know, this type of terrorism by osmosis of language, this is something that's been discussed before. But the permission structure created by
Burns
Destiny,
is an immoral,
morally corrupt, bankrupt man, I think you're deluded. If you don't like if you think this is gross, if you think in this moment should Destiny be saying this, he should be turning to his side and saying, no, we must stop our type of immoral behavior, then do that. Don't call for him to be imprisoned. Don't like misframe or whatever. Just say it's gross and move on. If anything, like I've seen people in the right make the argument for a while that people like Destiny saying stuff like, you know, mask off, right? When he went on Piers Morgan to discuss this, in fact, I could tell that, you know, that's how it was probably being treated by much of the right. By the way, here's an active congressman. The only reason I'm bringing this up is because a congressman got involved at FBI. There are active congresspeople trying to get Stephen Bonnell looked into, as others are trying to get him arrested for this statement. Now, look, you might think it's gross. You might not even like it, but there's the First Amendment. We're not talking about, you know, deplatforming here. We're talking about people going to prison for their speech. And unless you can show me clearly that Stephen Bonnell is, you know, calling for violence and he isn't just saying that, which I think it is, hey, if you don't feel any fear of repercussion and the political violence largely only goes one way, then that's going to lead for you thinking that you can say anything to increase the tensions with no consequence. Many people who go online and say civil war, civil war, civil war, when they say that, they think war is coming to the house of their enemies. They think it's going to the liberals. They think it's going to whoever their enemy is. They don't think war is going to come to their house. They don't think it's going to come to their family. They don't think it's going to hurt their loved ones. They think war, because Americans largely, you know, is something you do to other people, because Americans have largely done war to other people. There's no American alive today that has seen war on America's soil. And so when they think of civil war, when they think of this, they think of a movie where you're kicking in doors and you're like fighting the Iraqi government like crumbling around you. No. You're going to be taken out by a $1,000 drone like a blood bag. That's what's going to happen. And so I think what he's saying is generally that both sides need to have a fear in their chest that if they raise tensions, it can hurt them. But he said it in the most inflammatory way possible, probably for attention, because that's who Destiny is. Is that good? No. Can I change him? I'm not his fucking therapist. Let me show you what he said on Piers Morgan, because Destiny on Piers Morgan, man. And look at the guest lineup here. Piers Morgan, of course, Jack Posobiec, Andrew Wilson, Anna Kasparian, and Destiny. Now, this is a political party. Do you think this is the 2040 candidates right here? Jack Posobiec, VP Andrew Wilson, Anna Kasparian, VP Destiny, in order to unify the... Sorry. It's a weird lineup for this panel.
I mean, Piers, this is exactly what I'm talking about. You know, this type of ideology where you've got someone who's willing to mock Erica, who's been standing strong for her family, for her children, she will never be able to grow old with Charlie. She will never be able to be with them again, have more children.
Now, I'm showing this out of context. The reason he's complaining is because of this right here. This is what Piers Morgan decided to open up Destiny's segment with, which was Destiny's tweets about Charlie Kirk's wife and how she's chosen to publicly mourn, which is a decision she's made. I lost my grandfather earlier this year. I couldn't imagine posting it's hard to see somebody in a box and then compare that to the person you knew. And I don't even know if I want like a picture of the casket, period, let alone the idea that I would share videos online of my loved ones in that state so strangers could gawk. Like, that's not how I would go about it. But I also have never been a widow. And so, I've seen people widowed, and I've seen them not do something like that. But, you know, they're in a different environment, a different media environment. She married a man knowing that he was a media right-wing superstar and that she was going to be in the public eye. So I'm not going to go out of my way and critique this woman for the way she's mourning. And I see some people doing it, and I get it's not the way I would mourn. I understand it's very hard to relate to, but I've never been in her shoes, so I don't know. Well, Destiny decided to press every button in relation to
You've been
that.
quite active on social media since Charlie Kirk's death. When Erica Kirk posted Charlie's coffin, you responded, she tagged him, brackets, crying face emojis. In response,
She's clearly weaponizing this. If she says words that are political and like says we need to go against the evil of the Democrat, if she says stuff like that, critique it, go against it, fight it in the political realm of words, you know, use the violence of language, or, you know, whatever, like go and debate it in the free marketplace of ideas. I have no reason to like go out there and be like, I wouldn't post the coffin, I wouldn't post this way, I wouldn't post that way. If she says something political, critique the politics. But like, if you think you're gonna win arguing with a widow in the public space immediately after their husband was shot, you are a fool.
to Alina Haber's tweet ordering people to fly their flags at half-mast in memory of Charlie, you posted on X buying flags and poles just to fly them fully erect. And you then posted yesterday ending every conservative debate.
You know what sucks about this? You know what sucks about this the most? Not just that Stephen's tweets are bad for national unity. They're also not funny. None of these are funny tweets. So he's getting a lot of heat for tweets that weren't even that funny.
Call out I do in 2026 with "Don't dodge, bro." That's not what Charlie would have wanted. I mean, do you think that your response to the cold-blooded murder of Charlie Kirk has been appropriate?
Yes. I think that the only way this country moves forward into a better world is when conservatives can finally realize that they need to turn the temperature down on their side. We are 10 years into whatever this Trump madness is, and there is not a single mainstream conservative that will call for a lowering of the temperature on their side. I think that liberals need to wake up and finally realize that if they're not willing to do it, it will never come down. If you wanted Charlie Kirk to be alive, Donald Trump shouldn't have been president for the second term. Every time he's in office, this happens. People joked about.
It is a wild thing to say on television. If you wanted Charlie Kirk to be alive, you shouldn't elected Trump for a second term. That right there is clipping yourself to death. That is him. He's destroying himself. He's going out there and like just taking his reputation and throwing it in front of a Panzer. Like that clip right there couldn't be. I couldn't think of a more self-destructive clip than saying something like that. I understand the implications of what he's saying. He's saying that Donald Trump, when he's in office, and this is undeniable in my mind, okay? Somebody wants to fight me over it, they can fight me over it. Donald Trump, by being president, immediately increases the tensions in the country by default, you know? There's like a few character traits every president has while in office, and he has like a 30 to 40% up national tension every single time when he steps into that White House. It was true the first term, and it's true now the second term. It's the way he talks. It's the way he operates. It's like, oh, why you call Trump a fascist? He calls Harris a fascist. He calls the enemy fascist. He calls the enemy evil. He says that they're supporting the rapists and murderers. And if you're an evil fascist supporting rapists and murderers and trying to bring them into your backyard to get you, that type of language, especially concentrated around national tragedies, is going to increase tensions. The way he treats Melissa Hortman shooting versus how he treats Charlie Kirk shooting is dividing the country and separating us into two Americas more and more and more. The president has a few jobs just by default. One, of course, is commander-in-chief, but another is to be the national figurehead. And that is Trump's one of his worst attributes, is being a national figurehead. He's very, very, very bad at appealing to the whole country in moments of crisis. And he's really bad at increasing national tension. And so by him being in there, do I think that more political violence happens? Yeah. I think by the way he talks, I think by the way that he makes liberals react to him, he's figured out how to outrage liberals. Yeah, and that increases national tensions. Having a politics based on triggering the libs, getting people angry, gets the country angrier and angrier and angrier. Who would have thought? And so, yes, by default, Trump getting in there, I do think increases the likelihood of political violence in the country. I think he's a terrible national figurehead. That doesn't mean that, you know, it was Trump's election that stopped or was where Charlie's life stopped, like began or ended, like depending upon that election. Because I could see a scenario where Harris wins and this person still takes the shot. I'm just saying, as in quantity, when talking about actual terms, I think Trump is the worst president for national unity this country has ever had.
When Biden came in, it was so boring, nothing was going on. 7 out of 10 of the largest protests in American history have happened under Donald Trump. All of the recent political violence that's happened in this country over the past 20 years, the majority of it, the overwhelming majority of it, everybody gets mad because they keep asking Grok about it, has been conservative.
Who shot Charlie Kirk?
A guy from Utah who was raised in a Christian family, who was a 22-year-old.
This right here, to me, Destiny could have said, at this point, a guy from Utah that we don't know much about when it comes to what motivated him to pull the trigger. Because you can try to like pull from any individual character trait. Because people are saying like, oh, you know, he like knew this trans person or like were roommate once with a trans person, even though it started that the bullets were like trans ideology all the way to, well, he was once roommate with a trans person. Like, I don't know if like trying to get ahead of that and just like, well, the conservative this, conservative that, it might be better to say, look, it looks like it's a complex individual. We don't have all the information yet. One person saying it could be I don't see the purpose of going out there and trying to immediately establish it as a conservative. I think it could just come off as hacky. But then again, immediately afterwards, Piers Morgan brings up what the Utah governor said, saying they're a leftist. So I think maybe what Destiny's trying to do is like put out a few things that could push up against that can make you question that. And until you see what the Utah governor's evidence for saying he was motivated by like leftist radicalism, then I mean, I don't know if we should take it at face value. I trust the governor of Utah more than I trust the president, though.
I described
he wasn't
Destiny.
Trans. He didn't have
Destiny.
a trans girlfriend. He didn't have any trans influences. He didn't have any trans bullets. Yeah, I'm sorry, you guys were wrong on all of that.
To be clear, the governor of Utah, Spencer Cox, has made it clear that their investigation has now established that he had been radicalized by a leftist ideology, which drove him to do this. That's just
I'm sorry, excuse me, when?
Yesterday, he said that.
No. When was he radicalized? In the 6 months that he did remote college? Not
I don't know when he was radicalized, but I do know.
What you just said
I do know the very reasonable sounding governor of Utah has made it clear that the event.
He hasn't made it
you may not want
he
to
said
hear
this. Is an ongoing investigation.
You may not want to hear it, Destiny, but the reality.
See, that's what he should have led with. Who killed him? Spencer Cox, age 22, guy from Utah that we're still trying to figure out more about. And until we know, anybody trying to jump the gun should wait until all the facts are clear. Because, you know, this is not, we shouldn't be using these Charlie Kirk's body for political points. You know, if Destiny should have led with that. Who am I to judge, though? I've never been on Piers Morgan. I never got invited on.
Is the investigators, according to the governor of Utah, have established that he was radicalized to a leftist ideology that drove him to murder Charlie Kirk. Now, let me just ask you.
That's just not true.
Let me just ask you.
There's no way to deal with it.
Okay,
You're living in a
accusing the governor of lying.
Yeah.
That's your prerogative. But
sure.
If it turns out to have been somebody with a leftist ideology who wanted to shut up Charlie Kirk, would you condemn that?
I won't condemn anything until the president of the United States can go on air and say, all of us need to calm down.
So you won't condemn the murder of Charlie?
I don't know why Destiny needs to. Okay, maybe this is a philosophical difference. When I think about having a debate, right? My thing isn't like find the position that's closest to there and slowly get pushed back from it, or and like try to keep it as. My position is find the easiest to defend position that I think is true and go into that trench, go into that hole and build it up as strong as you can. You know, you don't need to go into like the tiny pocket mark made by an artillery shell way close to their position, because you just need to hold however you need to hold on everything. Just go to what's most easily defensible. So I don't know why in this moment Destiny couldn't say, of course I'll condemn it. I'll condemn the assassination no matter what, because it's wrong. But stuff like this will not stop happening until the president of the United States knows how to properly decrease tensions in this country. I don't know why you couldn't do that and then like snip a few of these wires that could make you look hacky.
I got one question for you, and I want you to actually answer it. Are you glad Charlie Kirk is dead? No, I don't think anybody in this country should be dying to political violence. It's insane. The past 5 years in this country has been crazy. But the reality is, until conservatives,
so then why did you say to your co-host that Trump deserved the bullet? Why did you tell him that?
Until conservatives have to say, hey, we all need to be less violent, there's no purpose in Democrats doing it, because every time Democrats disavow, you further entrench your guys' delusional beliefs that all the violence is coming on the left. Donald Trump can go on TV, he can say, Proud Boys, stand back and stand by. They can go on Parler and say, we heard you. They can go to the Capitol and break in and try to insurrect. They can get convicted in front of a jury, and then Donald Trump can pardon them, and we can come out and go, hey guys, why aren't Democrats disavowing violence? And pretend that the problem is coming from the left. Democrats do a disservice to this country by disavowing violence constantly when the president of the United States won't go on TV and say all of us need to be less violent. How easy would that be?
Thing is,
Kirk, until Donald Trump says something.
I'm a YouTuber. Leftists and Democrats have been condemning and turning down the temperature, condemning violence, turning down the temperature for a decade. Donald Trump can't go on TV and say, all of us need to calm down.
Right.
Can you tell me why he cannot?
Why would you expect anybody, Destiny?
You can't answer that. Can you answer that question? Why can't Trump
you
go on
answer
TV
this
and say,
question?
all of us should be less violent?
Why do you
can't
think
Trump say that?
Why do you
Why
think
is your behavior contingent on Donald Trump?
Insane right now.
Why do you think? No, let me ask you a question.
On Donald Trump.
Let me ask you a question.
Because he's the president of the United States of America and the leader of the opposing political party.
Destiny. Let me
You have a huge audience of young men who listen to everything you have to say. So when it doesn't matter. You have a huge audience, and because of the fact that you have a huge audience, you have a responsibility to not turn. No, it hasn't. It hasn't been broken. I actually care about the country and want to bring people together. You do the opposite. You represent the worst of us, Destiny.
I don't think they like each other very much. I really don't think they like each other very much. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So Anna thinks that he's the worst among them. I mean, I could imagine, look, she looked very annoyed in that segment. And I could imagine being there as, you know, you got two righties, you got two lefties, right? Quote unquote. That's the structure that they have on the show, and have the one person who's supposed to be kind of with you going out there unable to just like say, I condemn this, is really going to undermine your position, especially if you're saying, oh, most figures don't. Of course, most figures condemn it, or every major Democratic Party official has condemned it. And then the one person next to you, you can't have that conversation because the one person next to you won't condemn it. So whatever you want to say about, oh, every single Democrat in office is condemning it, every single XYZ. Like when we talk about the rank and file of those of power and influence and not of like TikTok accounts, but she can't have that conversation because Destiny won't. So I can understand why she's annoyed. I can't understand why she's annoyed. But Destiny will not give this up. He really likes this framing. He really does like this framing on you cannot decrease the tensions until the president does. And I agree with that. But he has to make it as toxic as possible when delivering it.
I mean, Piers, this is exactly what I'm talking about. You know, this type of ideology where you've got someone who's willing to mock Erica, who's been standing strong for her family, for her children.
Also, I don't like Jack Posobiec being the person to come in here and like, oh, it's it's bad to like speak of this way. Definitely considering the way Jack has spoken in the past. But, I mean, again, if you make these types of posts to get on Piers Morgan, if that's what he was doing, or in order to get this type of attention, like, Destiny dug himself a hole, and so he's trying to dig himself out of it. You know, there's some comedians that do that. They go out there, they, like, drop a bomb or two, and then they see if they can improve their position. Is that what he's trying to do?
Who's just...
Occurred is occurred.
She will never be able to grow old.
Mr. Burns, are you a leftist? And how would you articulate in explaining what a leftist ideology is?
Oh my God. I remember I was interviewed for like a big leftist video essay about like unity on the left and like what the problems with the left and like how to improve the left. And I remember having this exact question, like, what is a leftist? Because I believe in an expansive social service. I believe that, you know, no country should be dominating another country and their people. Everybody have a right to certain inalienable rights. I believe that wealth inequality in this country is abhorrent and we need to do something to address it now. I believe in a mass unionization campaign in this country to reverse the losses in unionization in order to give labor more bargaining power. I mean, there's things that I believe that I would say makes me the left flank of the Democratic Party. And I would say that, you know, I could come from like a social democrat tradition, but I don't come out and it's like, what do you believe in? And my first thing is to say socialist, because a lot of people associate things with that word that doesn't necessarily associate with me. But I would say, like, I'm of the social democrat tradition. You know, so I would say by the more expansive definition of leftist, if you're not somebody who says you have to be a communist or you have to identify as like a socialist first, even though I definitely have beliefs that one could try to consider socialist. I try to consider socialist. It's probably socialist.
A curd is a curd.
Does that make me leftist enough?
Dylan, real talk. How concerned are you about the state of politics now? Reaction from Trump, elected Rs, MAGA influencers, mass cancel culture program, Miller and Bondi now saying hate speech against Rs is criminal, etc.
I do think we have this type of pussification of what the right is willing to deal with and critique. Definitely around this moment, I think they're particularly burnt right now because, I mean, a few years ago, like the dialogue online was very vicious leading into these elections. And now just critiquing Charlie after his death is enough for people to go after people's jobs, say they should no longer be able to serve. We have this one woman who, again, she does something very gross. She goes to like a vigil and goes like, ha, ha, ha. What does the state of Texas do? They arrest her? Look, if the Westboro Baptist Church can go harass the families of dead soldiers and we're not allowed to go beat their ass like most of us want to, how is it that now Charlie Kirk gets extra protection than the families of dead soldiers? I don't believe that. That's bullshit. And I think that this bubble of like the free speech, you know, right? This idea that they're advocating like Trump is a free speech president. There is no claim to being a free speech president anymore. There's no claim to being somebody standing on the First Amendment anymore. From the advocation for the deportation of those who disagree with our policy on the state of Palestine to his open for years declaration that flag burners should go to prison, he's trying to use this again, the assassination of Charlie Kirk, to talk about going after flag burners. What did flag burning have to do with Charlie Kirk? If you know what? I hate to say this. I love my country. I would never burn a flag. I'm a Yankee Doodle fucking dandy. But I would wish on a star and pray all night if instead of Charlie Kirk getting shot, that dude burnt a flag. And I'll fight anybody who disagree with me on it. Okay? If we could replace every political assassination with a flag burning, this country would be a million times safer and a much better country. As for the state of politics and how concerned I am about it, I mean, my big fear pondering is that Trump's going to use this for some sort of crackdown campaign. That he thinks that this moment of crisis where Charlie's got shot in the neck is one of the best excuses he's going to get in order to take actions that people would have questioned the legality of otherwise. For example, when we talk about designating Antifa a terrorist organization, what does that mean? Antifa is not a formal organization. It'd be one thing to say Antifa can be associated with extremist stuff, but when we talk about terrorist organization, these are the types of designations we give for policy outcomes. The reason that they designated the cartels as terrorists wasn't because they wanted to show that they're so mean to the cartels, even though, of course, the posturing is useful. It's so they could do drone strikes on the cartels. They could use the AOMF that we used after 9/11 to go after terrorist organizations, to go after the cartels. It was for a policy outcome. So if we're designating Antifa a terrorist organization, if we're going out and we're arresting people and going after people's jobs for not even mocking Charlie Kirk's death, not even, you know, not advocating for another, but for just continuing to critique what he stood for, because no matter how you die, that doesn't change what you stood for when you lived. So I'm worried about I'm worried about more violence coming from this. That'll make that easier and easier. It's part of the reason, outside of just like, you know, general unity of the country, when I saw Charlie was shot, my heart sank. Because I knew how that would affect rhetoric online. I knew how it could go out and outgrow and hurt other communities. Like if there's zero, like the way we've gone from the shooter was trans to the bullets were trans to the roommate was trans, there could be no trans people involved in this, but just the environment that we are in a country right now, it just gets blamed on trans people online, that information spreads, and then trans people could be negatively affected by that. Just due to the like misinformation that's spreading like crazy. Or whatever group it's pinned on, as long as you get the narrative out quick. I mean, we all see what happens around these shootings. We don't see a bunch of prudent analysts going online to try to wait until all the facts are clear so that he can designate the ideology, motivations, and methods that were used by the killer. We saw that old white man was the killer, and then it was this other guy that was the killer, before we even got to the photos that were being spread around that were actually of the killer. And then the rat race to define what this person was and what they believed in. If they're a groyper, if they're a leftist, if they're this, if they're that, if they're trans, if they're not. It's not about like justice for Charlie. It's not about, you know, even getting the facts right. It's just about making sure that the other side takes the blame for it, takes the short-term political hit and can be pointed at. Because the last thing you want is for that guy to be on your side in that moment. Now it's your fault. And that rat race needs to be annihilated. There needs to be consequences for people who engage in that rat race. Like they need to like be disinvited from events. They need to be like not allowed into like those people gross me out to like the nth degree. Like it's one thing to just have gross beliefs, but like to immediately after the dead bodies hit the floor, try to profit off those dead bodies and use it as a siege weapon. No. So pondering, I'm a little concerned, but we also need to keep this in perspective. In the early 70s, I said this earlier, but I don't know if you heard it. The amount of there were like thousands of political bombings, tons of political violence that way outsurged what we're experiencing right now. So yeah, we've got problems that are different than what the boomers had to deal with during the 70s, but it's not like we're in an era of unprecedented political violence. I will say the shareability of that violence, the ease of getting that footage online and just sharing it around and around and around and making the biggest possible impact, that has changed. And that worries me. Because that guy who did the shooting during Charlie Kirk's assassination, the one who went to school with that pistol and, you know, shot those two students and killed themselves, they were inspired by tons of videos online like that. If you go to their social media platform, it's like tons of school shooting footage from like Columbine, and they got on social media and went down that rabbit hole and they didn't look back. So anyway, here's the Jack Posobiec back and forth with Destiny over this.
I mean, Piers, this is exactly what I'm talking about. You know, this type of ideology where you've got someone who's willing to mock Erica, who's been standing strong for her family, for her children, who's just, she will never be able to grow old with Charlie. She will never be able to be with them again, have more children, to have grandchildren, to have those memories, to raise them. It's all gone. Every single moment of that future that they had was gone because someone fired a bullet at Charlie Kirk that said, "Hey, fascist, catch." And now you have people celebrating it. And when you ask people
That's
about
not even
it,
the
they
bullet
say,
that was fired. How are you lying about this?
Shut
even?
up, Destiny.
Holy
Shut
shit!
up.
You're so
Shut
shameless,
up.
dude. Oh my god! You're not even inside the right bullet. You're such a disgusting
Piers.
piece of shit. Holy fuck!
What a
Piers.
pedantic point.
Are we
What a
even
not
going to do
pedantic,
this?
dude. Guy-
It is pretty pedantic. It does seem pedantic. It does seem pedantic. The better point would be like that's a video game reference. Like we don't even know what the at this point again we don't know if that is actually calling him fascist, if it was meant as a video game reference and it's a call from a fascist. Like we don't know.
It's a fucking professional.
But I mean, like if he had like 4 or 5 bullets and each of them have a different message, I don't think like which one was fired like particularly matters when communicating the intent or the lack of care of the shooter.
A disgusting
Piers.
piece of shit. Holy fuck!
What a
Piers.
pedantic point.
Are we
What a
are we
It's not
even going to
pedantic.
do
This
this?
guy's a fucking professional
It's total
liar.
pedantry.
It's total pedantry. Total
This guy
pedantry.
probably
Are we
fucking.
I would like to let
Jesus.
Jack. I would like to let Jack finish his point, please.
Yeah,
and
it's just
and they'll claim there's no leftist connection. They'll claim there's no there, and then go so far as to lie and say there's some kind of Christian conservative connection when you could see the writing on the bullet casings. And so, you know, these are very common symbols associated, whatever. The point is, right?
What symbols? Is he talking about like the up, down, left, right, left, right? Does he think those are like 3 arrows? Because that's the combination you use in Hell Divers to do the hey fascist catch like thing. It's like it's an attack in Hell Divers. I don't know what symbols he's talking about.
The problem is that everyone understands what Destiny is saying. Imagine someone constantly jabbing you with a finger. Anytime they get punched, even if you weren't involved, you're expected to apologize. Eventually, you'll stop apologizing.
I understand what you're saying. Thank you for the $50. That, you know, you keep pushing it. You keep. If Trump engages in this way, if the right doesn't want to take responsibility for the ones that, you know, go out there and either the Melissa Hortman shooting or the attack on Nancy Pelosi's husband, where they like tried to define him as like a gay lover, and that was spread by tons of like prominent right-wing figures, or when Tim Pool after the Club Q shooting, when those queers were killed, he just said, oh, it was a grooming event. This place was doing grooming after the shooting, not before, after the shooting. And when you see this type of behavior, you don't want to be the one to go out there and play the adult. But in the aftermath of a shooting like this, where they don't play the adult because they say it wasn't their fault. They say there wasn't this, they wasn't that. You know, they weren't a left, they weren't a right winger. They're actually a leftist, so they don't have to take responsibility. They lie the whole way through it. Like Destiny's pitch has always been brutal honesty. That's always been his pitch that has like appealed to his viewers. And he's gonna say it edgy, he's gonna say it mean, but it's what he truly believes. He wears it on his sleeve. You know, it's that type of brutal honesty. So going out there, he can't really do that type of framing. I mean, he talked a little bit about, Christian household, XYZ. It didn't really land that hard. And so I understand like the brutal honesty pitch. I understand that it's not fun to play the adult, but you gotta for the country. And in a moment like this, like you're just choosing to fight like down in a ditch. You're choosing the worst position. I'm not trying to be like, but Destiny is right. Okay, it's on national TV. You can be right and still look terrible. You can be right and then also communicate it in the worst way possible. Tiny has a spine. I mean, I don't know why it would be so terrible for him to say, of course I condemn all political violence. Why can't the president of the United States even like remember the names of the Democratic victims? Why is the president of the United States like it would be so easy it would take like a 3-second thing in order to not immediately be written off by a lot of people who are watching Piers Morgan's show. Like if you look at the comments on Piers Morgan's program, how many people is he bringing over? I mean, Destiny talks about how he gets emails like all the time from people he's convinced and like he's reeled in, and you know, I don't know how this is reeling anybody in. I'm sure it appeals to the base, his base. To be fair, anyone is going to look terrible on the show. Yeah, there's things you can do that make you look worse, though.
It should be very, very clear. Are we connected with our humanity or are we not?
We connected with our humanity or are we not? Oh, by the way, there was one last segment I wanted to check out. He had a back and forth with Anna before we check out the Hasan segment. Because I know they're also saying Hasan should be banned. Here's Destiny and Anna going back and forth over the fact that he won't just like condemn it.
I don't understand you, Destiny. You have so much hatred in your heart, and at the same time,
it's such a simple thing. If you're going to weaponize somebody's grief against the other party, well, then of course people have a right to fight back against it. I think that she has every right to grieve in whatever way she wants, but when that grief is going to be weaponized to do recruitment, political recruitment, and further radicalization of the other side, then of course
he's not saying not condemn political violence. He's saying make the right do it too.
I understand that, but he's saying until the right does it, he doesn't have to do anything. He doesn't have to. And so somebody looking at that from the outside will just be like, okay, so neither of you are condemning. And they're going to throw their hands up. And I understand that he wants, to be the principled like warrior on the mountain or whatever. And that's how he views it, is like, I will only do it if they, but I I don't think it really accomplishes it. Like, it would be like the simplest thing. The simplest thing. Thank you for the $5.
You not only have the ability to mock it, I think you have the obligation to mock it. It's insane.
Let me understand. Let me understand your argument. So since others are using her grief to politically recruit, you think that it's okay to mock her specifically?
Since others are using her grief, she's the one who gave a 17-minute speech on TV where she talked about good versus evil. She's the one showing up in TPUSA ads to 1 or 2 days after.
If someone assassinated my husband, I would not be able to have the level of composure she had during that speech. I would be out for blood. I understand why she's angry and why she said the things that she said. Okay, you need to understand what being a human is, what it's like to actually lose someone that you love, that you chose to spend your life with, that you chose to raise children with, a person who was violently and viciously assassinated like that. This is why I've moved away
and when something
identifying as
you got bullied online. It's so funny. It's so funny that you just said that you don't think about how other people act to define your behavior. Your entire political ideology now is somehow defined by the people that were mean to you on Twitter. If somebody cares about somebody who's grieving,
I understood
then you tell that
what
person,
the flaws on the left happen to be. The weakness in their arguments. No, it's not about the way I get treated.
You don't say, hey, let's throw a camera in front of you and have you do mass recruitment for our political party while everyone over here is calling for civil war. It's unhinged. When you've got people like Matt Walsh of the Daily Wire and the president of the United States calling for civil war.
We're talking to a guy who said he'd be okay with his own parents getting killed if they...
Did the president call for civil war? He said he was going to bring more to Chicago. I remember that.
Went to that Trump rally where that assassination attempt
we're
happened.
talking to a woman who went on and did the whole conservative media outlet with Tucker Carlson and Glenn Beck.
Okay, so conclusion. Of course, the right needs to condemn it. Donald Trump, in and of himself, he has a attribute of 40%, 50% increase of national attention by being president. He is somebody who does not want to acknowledge violence on the other side, wants to violence directed towards the other side, wants to only make it about him, may only make it about himself. He has to play the ultimate victim, and it helps him demonize the other side more to make them look like lunatics, which is the type of politics he is always engaged in. The only way Trump can get into power is by engaging in this type of politics, and so I don't think he is ever going to change. And so yes, I do think that Donald Trump is one of the biggest factors increasing political tension in this country. It's not only him, that like political tensions didn't exist before him. It's just that he is probably one of the worst presidents for national unity that has ever existed in this country. From the way he talks about the political opposition, from the way he talks about cities that don't agree with him or don't vote for him, from the way that he deals with appropriation after natural disasters. In our state, Key Bridge, it collapsed. We had shipping containers ram into it, outside of the 10th most active port in the country, and the bridge collapsed, killed 13 people, huge tragedy. Congress appropriates the money to repair it because it's not our fault. Our country needs that port to operate because, we're a modern country that trades with other countries, and Maryland residents deserve to have bridges so they can get to work. It was used by tens of thousands of people. After the governor of Maryland, Wes Moore, criticized Trump's troop deployments in D.C., Trump started talking about re-examining that. Mind you, Congress had already voted. They had already voted to appropriate the funds. It was already done. But he was reopening the issue that would cost people local infrastructure, cost the country like economic damage because he had to engage in that. That's just the type of way he engages in politics. So I agree with that. There is no reason why you can't say all of that after a 5-second disclaimer saying, of course, I condemn all political violence, including political violence by left-wingers. That's all you would need to do. And then you, by default, are probably going to be rhetorically better than the president of the United States. You're going to have to say a lot after that to get beneath him, to get beneath the go after the women and children guy. So I want to move on to the Hasan segment because Hasan is also being talked about as somebody who needs to get banned, removed from the platform. And this is the big compilation of clips that I see keep getting shared around Hasan. We've seen a lot of these before, but I wanted to watch them again in this context to talk about what he's saying here and whether it should meet the barrier of either A, banning, or B, which again, I see more calls on arresting Destiny, but I've seen a few on Hasan too.
So all Democratic elected leaders condemn it, but Republican leadership can call for war? And we place responsibility on a YouTuber instead of POTUS?
Of course, I place responsibility on the president of the United States. But when you're answering for your actions, you can't just pivot to the president of the United States. They're having a conversation with you, not the president. It would take a 5-second disclaimer that you could then move the conversation on to the president of the United States and those of influence. You could even say something like, of course, I personally condemn it, but I'm a YouTuber. I'm not the president. And then boom. You took that's not 5 seconds. That's 2 seconds. But like that, Destiny needs to dig in at the razor's edge. He has to dig in at the edge of the knife's blade in his position. Thank you for the $5. Here is the Hasan clip compilation. This is Tectone. He is a streamer. He used to stream. He recently took a break. I don't know if he's retired. He is somebody who has gone back and forth with Hasan before. And here is the compilation of clips that he posted to say that Hasan should be banned. Now, I'm going into this as somebody with a, me and Hasan, we go way back. We're good friends, but I would say that, maybe we're not the best of friends. And so I'll just put that disclaimer at the start.
I'm sick and tired of it. Left-wingers, liberals, you need to be fucking showing your opponent's guts on there, okay? You need to be gutting them. You need to be shanking these motherfuckers and letting their intestines just ride on stage. Slice them up. Slice them and fucking dice them. What the fuck is this?
Now, to be clear, if you go back here, look what he's looking at. The top issue for Georgia voters: economy, threats to democracy, abortion access. He's talking about campaigning. He says on the debate stage, slice them, dice them, gut them, XYZ. Is that the type of language you should be using? You need to execute them on the stage. Probably not the best.
Destiny said multiple times in the panel that nobody should die to political violence. It's just never enough for the right.
Nobody should die for political violence. Well, okay. Well, why was it in? Okay, maybe I missed that. I didn't watch the full thing. Maybe I'm the fool for only watching the clips that are widely shared. But in the clips that are widely shared, when asked, like, I don't know why, again, the 2-second engagement that it would have taken. Because that's not the impression I was left with. Thank you for the $5. I'll watch the whole thing off stream, and when I come back, I'll tell you if, I missed it. Like, if there was a moment on stream where he, said, of course I condemn all political violence, including left-wing political violence. That's not the conversation we're having. He did say that. If somebody sent me a clip, that'd be useful.
I got one question for you, and I want you to actually answer it. Are you glad Charlie Kirk is dead?
No, I don't think anybody in this country should be dying to political violence. It's insane. The past 5 years in this country has been crazy.
Hasan should be banned. Destiny just wants to use tilt for tat game theory as a stance on political violence. Yeah, I don't think tit for tat game. I think there should be a fear of political retribution spilling back at you if you go out there and do it. That should be the fear. But we should emphasize that tit for tat political violence at every opportunity will bring nothing but destruction to the country. Dylan, one streamer saying to cool it down isn't going to do anything. This is a ridiculous, dumb point. Well, Benadryl enjoyer. I don't know how much Benadryl you're on. My point isn't that one streamer is going to fix everything. If I go onto a panel, though, and I'm, asked to condemn, or I'm asked to do XYZ, and I refuse to condemn a recent political assassination in a conversation about the political assassination, I am hurting my position. So you're going to make it so the people who are watching that show are going to walk away thinking you're a fucking psychopath. That's really it. So if that was made clear on the full panel, fantastic. But my point was not that one streamer shall rule them all. My point is that if I was to invite a right winger onto today's program and they ask me, do you condemn the violence? And I say, the real conversation we need to be having is about the president of the United States. There are going to be people who hear that and notice that I didn't answer yes. or no? Oh my God, you guys are really like throwing it all at me. Dylan, the problem is just conservatives have never been able to condemn anything. Well, it depends on the conservative. And they don't face any condemnations or pushback. The left always has to buy narrative and condemn everything. Okay, we should still condemn it. You're ignoring all the calls to arms and Republican politicians saying MAGA should go ahead and hurt lefties. Meanwhile, you're disavowing something that you didn't do. If somebody asks me, do you think that's bad? Yeah, disavow. It's bad. It's bad. It's not hard for me to do that. It's not difficult for me to do that. And I'm not ignoring the calls for arms from Republicans. And when we say Republicans, we mostly mean right-wing influencers. I see them. I call them out. These are fools that are going to get other people killed in their name. But that doesn't mean in reaction to that, we hold on our condemnation. And until Matt Walsh condemns it, we have a tit-for-tat amount of pipe bombings, suicide bombings, assassinations, stabbings, arson attacks, until eventually we all agree to calm it down. If I feel like I can push back against that at all and do it simply while calling out the hypocrisy of it all, then yeah, that's the way I want to do it. Dylan, what do we gain by disavowing? Grow up. Adrian Hearn, let me just quickly say, I have no interest in killing my neighbor, you dumb fucking Neanderthal. I have no interest of seeing wars being brought to the United States, political assassination, fire bombings. And so if I can contribute in any way to protecting a certain amount of national unity that stops that, then I will do it because I think that's good. I'm not declaring what anybody's like personal responsibility is. I'm saying that's what I believe is good for the country. If there is a point of no return where somebody ignores the democratic result of the election and fully overturns it, fine. Get a gun, overthrow the president of the United States, take that shit back. I have no interest in seeing my house burn before it is absolutely necessary. And so if there's a way that we can prevent it or I can contribute to that being prevented, then I will do it. Grow up. You go die in a trench. Where were we? You think this is bad, Lamau? It's just getting started, dude. You have no clue what's going to happen tomorrow, and neither do I. Dylan, you're not contributing. You're rolling over. Oh, I'm sorry. Guys, I've come to the consideration that if the left all bands together and we start getting more violent, things will get great. Don't condemn. Don't condemn. Let's go send the message to the American public. We do not condemn political violence. I believe every suburban voter should vote for Trump. Trump third term. Why not? That sounds like a blast. But it's very easy to just say, look, of course that was bad, but let's not pretend that this is in a vacuum. Dylan, at what point does the left stand up to the bullies? Are we supposed to keep taking it? I told you the point. I answered that question before, which is something, you know, that I think could get me in trouble. But I said, if it got to a point where there is no way to save the republic but political violence, then that's the point. That's the point where the government has declared martial law, elections are canceled for 5 years. You know, that's the point where you say, okay, there's no turning back. That's one indication. I could think of a few others. For example, the suspension of First Amendment rights. When Donald Trump declared, we're going to suspend all amendments in the Constitution, or like all of the, like when he said that, if he went through with something like that, that would be a point of no return where you have no choice. Now, if whether or not there's like a gang of right-wing hoodlums that come into your neighborhood and you have to push them out if the cops are not doing something, there can be individual instances where, you know, I can give a blessing to somebody defending their neighborhood, like they did against Oswald Mosley's gang back in Britain back in the day. But when we're talking about, you know, standing up, I don't know what you mean by standing up. Of course, it has to have an extremely high bar because we have the longest running constitutional government of any country ever. Like, I mean, still exists. We have the longest running continuing constitution that's still alive, still in use. The continuance governments where you can go from one administration to next administration, next administration, next administration. That's something we have. We should protect that. That's a good thing. That's laudable. And if we derail that train, You know, there's no saying how long it's going to be until you get it back on the track, if you ever do. Homie denied the last election and he was still removed. See, let's say in that moment when Trump denied the results of the election, we said, okay, we have to overthrow him now. And we went and we did that. A bunch of people died. When if we went through the process, I mean, Brian Sicknick's still dead, but, you know, less people could have died. Obviously, there was eventually a transfer of power. Not the most peaceful transfer of power, but there was a transfer of power. And so it's really important to know when, or to try, you got to be careful to never let it like get past you. But if you jump the gun, you can get a bunch of people killed for no reason. Anyway, let's get back to this. We got to watch this Hasan thing. My gosh. Went back and forth a bit. Sorry if I got a little too heated towards any individual person. It's just if somebody like if you don't want to take it upon yourself to lower the tensions because you don't feel that's your job or the job of the left, fine. My job as an American is to do it, irrespective if we're on the right and left. Okay. I have to say, it's refreshing to see your level-headed take on what's going on. Props to you. Thank you. And that's what everyone else believes too, because it's the only comment I read. Let's continue. Let's continue. Here is what Tectone says Hasan should get banned over. Let's just start over.
I'm sick and tired of it. Left-wingers, liberals, you need to be fucking showing your opponent's guts on there, okay? You need to be gutting them. You need to be shanking these motherfuckers and letting their intestines just ride on stage. Slice them up. Slice them and fucking dice them. What the fuck is this?
So I've seen that clip before. I can tell you the context because I immediately saw. The first thing you should do anytime you see a clip, especially out of context, is see what's on the screen to give you context clues for what might not be mentioned. He's talking about a debate. He's talking about statistics that show that economic issues poll very strongly with Georgia voters. And he's talking about what somebody needs to do. You can even hear him in the language. He says on stage. He's not saying that somebody should rush the stage with a knife. He's saying that if you debate Republicans, he's basically saying, give them a political curb stomping. He's just saying it in a very graphically violent way. My only critique here would be that we need to figure out other ways to say we should be strong and aggressive outside of descriptors of horrific violence.
Letting their intestines just ride on.
Oh my God. I didn't see this Tectone edit before. I saw this one clip. I didn't see the whole thing. I'm sorry. I'm not laughing at this. I'm laughing at that framing. I'm laughing at that framing. To take Hasan's audio and play it over this. As if to say, I'm sorry, man. That's crazy. That's crazy. That's unhinged. That's unhinged. We still don't even know the motivations of the shooter. And now we're tying Hasan's language to this. Like, come on. Like, if we knew this dude was like a Hasan sub, then at least you could be like, well, I guess he did listen to Hasan. That still wouldn't mean he even took inspiration from Hasan, but we don't know anything. And like, again, this is just another person using Charlie Kirk's corpse like a siege weapon. That, like, the clip out of context, even though, of course, it doesn't sound good, and that's not language I would particularly encourage, though I do use the word curb stomp quite a bit, and that's kind of graphically violent, you know? Curb stomping isn't a lovely thing. But this is unhinged. I'm sorry, this is unhinged. Can we skip this? I don't want to have that audio. I feel it's disrespectful, actually.
Yeah, kill them. Kill those motherfuckers in a video game. Sorry. Holy shit. Murder those motherfuckers in the street. Let the streets soak in their fucking red capitalist bloods, dude.
What is I do not know that clip. I actually haven't seen that clip before. Does anyone know the context for that clip? Yeah, but by the way, guys, he said in a video game. I will say TOS across YouTube, across Twitch, like they need to make like a specific exemption. You've never seen that clip? No, I haven't seen that clip. I don't know what you guys think I do all day. When I'm not streaming, I'm not like going through clips of streamers I disagree with. I actually barely ever watch other streams. I'll very rarely like hop into a stream or something, or like going through the clips. I'm almost always watching boxing, maybe reading. You know, I watch a lot of Antiques Roadshow, but I'm not going through old clips. Here is the link to the timestamp of the VOD from which that clip is. Yes, he was talking about destroying opponents in the debate.
Fucking 18.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, I knew that. I'm talking about this clip, this new one.
18.6%. Abortion access 0%.
But immediately, once you lead with this, and this is what he led with and put over the Charlie Kirk footage, and this is deceptively edited, it makes me question everything else in the clip. But I mean, like, this is Tectone's like personal feud with Hasan. They've gone back and forth. So I think, you know, obviously it's not in the best of faith.
You guys didn't see that? I'm sick and tired of it. Left-wingers, liberals, you need to be fucking showing your opponent's guts on there, okay? You need to be gutting them. You need to be shanking these motherfuckers and letting their intestines just ride on stage. What the fuck is this shit, man? Slice them up. Slice them and fucking dice them. What the fuck is this? You cannot have a bigger fucking layup. You could not have had a bigger fucking layup than a horrible candidate like Herschel Walker. Sure, he was prepared very well. And Herschel Walker actually had a good, an advantage. He had the same...
Yeah, they're talking about on the debate stage. I think I even remember the exact debate he's referencing. I think he's referencing... No, he is. He's referencing, because I went down to Georgia to canvass for Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff. I think, no, we spent most of the time canvassing for John Ossoff. But this is specifically referencing their debates that they had. Or John Ossoff's lack of debate that he had. Because I remember that his debate opponent skipped out on it, and then he lost. Lost the election, that is. So I actually even remember the debate he's referencing. Where were we? Here we are.
If you cared about Medicare fraud or Medicaid fraud, you would kill Rick Scott. Kill Rick Scott.
I'm gonna kill you with my AR.
What is the... I understand that he's trying to shove as many of these in here as much. As a streamer, I'm just by default suspicious of cuts like this. I have a weird feeling that after that he's saying, like, rhetorically, we're talking about Medicare fraud. I think he's trying to say that Rick Scott, you know, engages in fraud and you get rid of him. Again, this is not the way you should say it. Kill Rick Scott. You should probably be careful with how you phrase it. And instead of trying to be like edgy and how you make these points, but I mean, like, maybe Hasan and Destiny aren't too different after all. I immediately see a clip like this and I immediately think Clip Chip. It's just so short, cuts very abruptly.
Fraud, you would kill Rick Scott.
I feel like it looks like I'm excusing like something, but I just, as a streamer, I just don't trust it.
Scott, kill Rick Scott.
I'm gonna kill you with my AR-15. Like, that's what the...
See, this is him mocking like a fucking gravy seal. I'm gonna get you with an AR-15. You can listen to it in his voice. You can hear him mocking. It's so clear. God, I can't imagine being this ass mad about Hasan, actually.
That's the type of messages they were leaving in this dude's, this dude's office, and he's resigning. Like, he's literally, this is his last term. You actually wrote about this, and it was a great video where you talked about, you know, someone has to do it. See, when I say that, everyone knows exactly what I mean. Which is, I think that shows that there is a lot of anger, a lot of resentment, and untapped potential, untapped revolutionary potential, as a matter of fact.
But that isn't him telling them to do it. That's probably one of the more edgy ones. He's saying that the fact that somebody's even thinking about doing it shows us there's untapped revolutionary potential. Extremely inflammatory, talking about channeling. But I guess that the argument that Hasan probably could respond with is, okay, what's the alternative? You either channel it into direct action, or it's going to be channeled with like a pressure valve. It's not going to be channeled, and it's going to come out in random bursts of violence. I'm trying to be as good faith as possible because we are talking about going after people's jobs here, or in Destiny's case, arrest.
Not a gamer himself, Clancy mostly watches musicians or talk shows on Twitch. He particularly enjoys leftist political commentator Hasan Piker, who has 2.5 million followers on the platform. I like the frankness and the bluntness, Clancy said. He's comfortable saying what he believes.
Are you comfortable with Hasan Piker saying what he believes? Yeah. I mean, I disagree with it all the time. This last one right here, this one is probably the most clear-cut example of a suggestion of violence towards any sitting official from Hasan. This is probably the most clear-cut example here. But it's also harder for people to understand directly because some people might not know, even though a lot of political people do. This is the saw-off Fallout-style double-barrel shotgun that somebody made before assassinating Shinzo Abe and using it to assassinate Shinzo Abe. And it shows the battery, the triggers. It was all made in their home in reference to Shinzo Abe's ties to a religious organization that was victimizing the shooter's mother. And he responded to a Tom Cotton tweet here. I encourage people who get stuck behind the pro-Hamas mobs blocking traffic, take matters into your own hands to get them out of the way. It's time to put an end to this nonsense. So this seems like Tom Cotton advocating for violence, advocating for people. When he says take matters into your own hands and you're a sitting elected official, you need to be very careful. Because when you say this is said in a way where if he just said, push them out of the way or something like that, I would actually give it a lot more leeway. Like, push it could mean get out of the car and stuff like that. But when you make it this vague, that's the problem. You don't want to leave it up to interpretation. You don't want to leave it up to, they're guessing what you mean. Because if it's taken in your own hands, could just mean run them over. Could just mean flatten their skull with your Ford's tires. And if that's what Tom Cotton's saying, that's something that will lead to people dying, lead to people getting seriously hurt. It could lead to the driver getting hurt, especially if he gets swarmed after doing something like that. I mean, do you see those bodies of people after people got swarmed during the Rodney King riots in the trucks? The mobs can get extremely violent if they get their hands on you. And so this, to me, seems like Tom Cotton being scared to directly call for violence, but wanting to openly suggest it in order to look like more of a hardliner to his base. And so while he's being vague about it, that's what it seems like to me. And so Hasan then decided to respond with another vague, but I would say there was less attempt to make it vague, suggestion of a political destruction by homemade firearm. I would say this is probably the clearest cut call to violence I've ever seen from Hasan. But it's also in reaction to another person making a call for violence. So I don't feel horrible. You can't say, Dylan, do you feel really bad for Tom Cotton here? No. I mean, if you're advocating for violence and then somebody advocates for violence against you, whether or not you're talking about the violence of the state or not, or the violence of individual vigilante, truck, bulldozing through crowds of protesters. And look, crowds can be annoying. That's the job of the police, to disperse them from busy highways. That's not the job of somebody following Tom Cotton's Twitter account. What's in that cigar? It's a backwood. I'm smoking backwoods. So I feel very little sympathy for Tom Cotton, but this is also a very clear call for violence from Hasan. If not like a warning, or it seems like a very clear indication of, you know, somebody could. So this is probably the only one that I could see from what Tectone showed. From the other ones, there was 2 that we saw were clearly out of context. 2 clips which I don't know, but they were clipped in such a way that left me with questions. And so it's very difficult for me to take it at face value, considering how he did in the other tweets, with the other clips. This right here is the only one that I can say, yeah, it seems like a call to violence, or could easily be interpreted as a call to violence that he made back in April when Tom Cotton made this tweet. So this is like 5 months ago. I don't know if Twitch should go back and retroactively ban Hasan for this 5 months later, but I would 100% understand, and he should. Dan Clancy should have a call with Hasan and probably be like, look, don't do something like this again, at the very least, because I understand like the idea of like, hey, that's Tom Cotton said something like this, why can't I? But Twitch is not going to want to associate with that, and it's still bad for the unity of the country. I do think it's bad for Twitch to make an exception here, because then it could make an exception in another instance. It's not even about this particular instance or me feeling bad for Tom Cotton. It's about the standards that need to be set, so people can't say, well, Hasan posted this, why can't I post a rifle in response to a Frogan tweet, or a response to a Dylan tweet, or in response to a Denims or a whoever tweet. And so it's more about like a consistency in policy, so we don't slide into normalizing that in the platform, or making it so people could say, well, he did it, so why can't I do it? And the reputation Hasan has is like, well, it's what I hear is he's like Dan Clancy's pet. You know, Dan Clancy likes him, and so he's, you know, given a little, you know, now look the other way. I don't know if that's true. I don't know Dan Clancy. I'm sure he's a very personable man, but that's the rumor. That's the view people have. So trying to get ahead of that, definitely in times like this, seems like the thing to do. Here's a Rick Scott timestamp from the VOD. He's talking Republicans would take out Rick Scott if they cared about Medicare. Oh, so this is the Rick Scott clip that we were talking about, whether or not it was out of context. Man, so is it really just this tweet is the only one? I'm going away from this. This is wild. I'm going away from this disliking Tectone more than Hasan, actually, because it is, you know, is not. I inherently dislike clip chimping more than the 9-digit zip code, I guess. My God, I'm insane.
It is not happening at the point of recipients. If you cared about Medicare fraud or Medicaid fraud, you would kill Rick Scott, okay? You wouldn't make Rick Scott, former governor of Florida, Rick Scott, you wouldn't make him the current, what is his current office? What is he? He's the Richard Lynn Scott, is an American attorney, businessman, politician, Navy veteran, serving as the senior United States Senator from Florida, a seat he has held since 2019. And also, I believe this past election cycle, he was literally the f***ing head of the, what was it, like the Senate committee or something, like the Republican fundraising initiatives. The reason why I'm saying if you cared about Medicare or Medicaid fraud, you would kill Rick Scott is because, and not make him a prominent part of the Republican Party, is because he to this day is still also known as committing the largest Medicare fraud in U.S. history. They want to cut SNAP. They want to cut Medicaid.
Also, if we want to talk about institutionalized violence, if you're taking from Medicaid and Medicare and you're doing it illegitimately, you're taking the resources, healthcare resources, out of the pockets of people who need them. That has negative health outcomes with people. What does that mean for them? What does that mean for them? I don't know why he's saying kill Rick Scott. Why not just like, if you cared, you would like abandon Rick Scott? Why? I mean, I guess it's just to be punchier. It's so he can get clipped.
They want to cut the funding of Medicaid. They want to make it harder for people to receive Medicaid. They don't want to actually go after the medical providers or the insurance companies or the nursing homes that are lining their pockets with major donations. Those are the people who actually engage in the fraud. It's not your uncle that's like lying about their condition and stealing money from the government by, you know, going to the doctor or whatever.
No one's for that. We've got to make.
Yeah, it just seems like stupid hyperbole. Very stupid hyperbole and a stupid comparison. I mean, I get the point he's trying to make. I don't know why he said it like that. Okay, moving on.